GM. So, should we get this started? Are you guys excited, ready?
Definitely, let's get started, mate.
All right. So, welcome to the fourth meeting of our hackathon. I just posted the agenda in chat. And first up are general questions regarding project descriptions. For example, do we want to have some requirements? What if they are not met? And do we allow revisions after the deadline next week? Any thoughts on any of that?
Okay, sorry, go ahead, mate.
Okay, thanks. I think we need minimal descriptions, but because the delay is quite short for the people that want to submit something for this month, I think we should not ask too much, but we need general descriptions in terms of what it's going to do. We need some descriptions regarding the bit of what technology is it going to use. Is it a game? Is it a dApp? But whether it is one or the other, just a few questions regarding that. And maybe, I don't know if it's a solo project or if there are many people involved. Yeah, I don't think we need much. I think what is important is what people are going to submit at the end of the month, more than the description itself. But just my view.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, mate. Basically, I think keeping the description pretty light on when it sort of would still encourage people to submit their project plan forward. So we don't want to sort of discourage people from doing anything, but having some minimum requirements, like you suggested, who's on the team, what technology you're using, I think that's fair to enforce as well. So there's at least some, what type of project are you releasing, minigame, a dApp, whatever it is. So I think I agree that all needs to be there in terms of a minimum in the document.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. One thing to note, maybe I misunderstood, but I thought that the submission deadline for the project descriptions is for the whole hackathon, so this month as well as next month. Or did you guys interpret it differently?
I initially assumed that we had to get the work done pretty quickly and submitted pretty quickly, but I was always really unclear on what the dates were. And yeah, maybe it was underestimated the amount of work that's required to get sort of a hackathon up and running and people working in teams and getting things submitted. So yeah, that's still a bit unclear to me.
Okay, good feedback. The thing is, part of why we are doing these project descriptions is that we can get an estimate about the volume of all the projects that will be submitted in total in these 3 months, so that we can better plan the rewards. That was a big part of last time's discussion, and we will continue that later today. But yeah, that is something that that would be really useful to know. So I think that we should leave it that the deadline for the at the 23rd will be for both months. But to make it really clear to people, let's make another announcement so that people understand, hey, if you want to participate in the hackathon at all, you have to hand in a short description, just like 1 page with the requirements we mentioned earlier. And you have to hand that in by the 23rd.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair, mate. Yeah, and just having that announcement will help as well.
I have a question. Can I submit the same project twice? I'm working with PG on an OTCD project. We are basically going to submit the project for this month, and we intend to deliver something that will be, I guess, a bit more than an MVP this month. But we also see, we also have ideas for features that will take a bit more time, and that we can't deliver by the end of the month. So I don't know. How do you think we should play this?
You can probably include it in the same document. You can sort of say, and that's what I did for the dungeon crawler that I'm working on with Oliver. And so, like, I put in what are our post MVP plans. I just put a few dot points in there and what we want to deliver after the MVP. So potentially you can put it in that one document, or you can split it across multiple projects if you want to.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do that. The idea, for example, I don't know, this month we are not going to deliver something that allows you to do TC deals on a volume of geodes or everything that is related to the forge, because we don't have time to integrate. But maybe if there is some interest, we can deliver that for the next month. So we'll see. We also see if people are interested in the project or not. So it depends. We'll see.
Okay, then we have another question by Musashi. Can a team enter multiple submissions? I don't see a problem with that if they submit multiple project descriptions and then deliver multiple MVPs, even though it's the same team. Those are definitely valid submissions, I think. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
All right. Then something I wanted to touch on is the rewards. So do we reward the project itself? Or actually, the rewards discussion comes later. So let's keep this for later. Are there any other matters relating to generally project descriptions, or should we move on to the second top of our agenda, which are the project descriptions that have been submitted so far?
Just wondering if there's a need to create a template, a project description template, or is that just overkill?
Well, if you want to create one, you're very welcome to do that.
Yeah, no, that's be done. Or, people can pretty much just take a clone of what people have already put as their submissions and just sort of use that formatting as well. So, yeah, that would work too.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, if there are no other general questions, let's move on to the project descriptions. Should we go through them in order of submission, or does any one of you have to leave and want to get ahead of it? What do you guys prefer? Okay, I guess then we'll go in order. I think I submitted mine first. So let's go through this. I posted a link in the hackathon thread, but I can also post one in here if you guys want to read with me. So yeah, I'm just gonna read it, and then we can discuss it afterwards. The 10th game by Aavegotchi. Backstory. Any similarities to community members are purely coincidental. The cryptoverse encompasses blockchains, dApps, exchanges, social platforms and communities. A place of many opportunities, but even more risk. Among them, liquidation is perhaps the most feared. When a trader like Dan opens a leveraged trade, they place themselves at the mercy of the market's volatile whim. One moment of sudden movement and their entire position could be forcibly sold, leaving them with nothing. Dan still remembers his first liquidation as if it was yesterday. A gut-wrenching sensation. His very essence was being torn apart. His emotions, his drive, his competitive nature, all vanished and left behind a hardened, yet empty shell. But those missing parts of him weren't lost. They were harvested. The entire system, every disproportionate gain, the thrill that it could all be lost at any second, right down to the heart-stopping liquidation itself, was all part of a meticulously designed farming operation, a honey trap if you will, set up by a robotic species shrouded in mystery. While our modern-day technology can hardly detect human essence, these bots, equipped with capabilities far beyond our own, didn't just detect it, they learned to extract and cultivate it. They have constructed hidden portals bridging our reality with the cryptoverse through an intermediate space, an in-between, the ether realm. A vast network of shimmering slipstreams all connected to a central nexus. Finnish scientist Dr. Wagmi has spent years studying these phenomena. The ether realm, he claims, serves as a catalyst for the essence, sparking a metamorphosis through which essence regains shape. Picture a swirling storm of multicolored lights, he explained at a recent conference. Within that storm, ghost-like creatures form from the essence. However, in order for them to enter the cryptoverse, they need to be summoned through a portal that connects to the ether realm. During this summoning, 10 candidates are waiting at the portal's threshold, yet only one may cross over into the cryptoverse. These creatures are a passionate, driven, and competitive species, with limited vocabulary, mostly utterances of GM, GMI, and friend. They still manage rudimentary communication. Unfortunately, none of them can recall anything prior to being summoned. Hence, the specifics of the summoning ritual remain elusive. Dr. Wagmi's team of researchers were confronted with two significant questions. Why were there always exactly 10 candidates? And, from all the liquidated souls, how were these candidates chosen? The Ghost Creatures Council of 9, privy to ancient knowledge passed down for generations, called it verifiably random. Inscribed on ancient stone tablets was the definition of such randomness: unpredictable, unknown ahead of time, fair and tamper-proof. Yet Dr. Wagmi and his team suspected that the process behind these four maximes may not be random at all, but very much up to the individual creatures themselves. We believe, he said, leaning into the microphone, that it's a competition, a fierce competition in 10 different disciplines of skill, endurance, and strategy, games, if you will, the victors of which secure their place in the next portal opening. While we can only speculate about the other 9 games, using the newest imaging technology, we have just discovered the nature of the 10th game. The room was silent as he revealed a reconstructed video on the screen behind him. It was noisy, filled with static, but in the middle of the chaos you could make out hazy silhouettes on either side of a platform. A fast blur, seemingly bouncing back and forth between them, like a game of 1. Overview. The 10th game is envisioned to be a standalone multi-platform online multiplayer table tennis game. At its core, its core aim is twofold: to be an engaging Aavegotchi game and to serve as an educational resource for developers interested in Web3 development with Unity and the Aavegotchi protocol. Standalone, as in the game would run from a standalone executable as opposed to in the browser, for example, Online multiplayer, meaning 2 players engaging in exciting 1v1 table tennis matches. Multi-platform, the game should support both regular PC as well as VR platforms, allowing gamers on both mediums to compete against each other. Educational, the project should serve as a practical example for a comprehensive developer course to educate and onboard new talent. And Aavegotchi integration, players should be able to select their preferred gotchi whose traits will affect gameplay, influencing aspects such as size, bounce, and the bounciness of your paddle. 2. Minimum viable product. Given the ambitious scope of the project, the focus during the hackathon will be on delivering an MVP, a basic 2-person VR online multiplayer table tennis game. 3. Game design. The game is set inside the slipstream of a portal. In this otherworldly setting, players will participate in table tennis matches with a few unexpected twists yet to be revealed. Various gameplay aspects will be influenced by the chosen gotchi's traits. 4. Tech stack. The game will be developed in C# using Unity's data-oriented technology stack. DOTS incorporates an entity component system as opposed to object-oriented programming, a job system, and the highly optimized burst compiler. Unity's netcode for entity package will be utilized for networking. It is their #1 recommendation for competitive multiplayer games featuring server-side physics simulations and client-side prediction with eventual consistency. For connecting to the Polygon blockchain, we'll be using the Ethereum library. Unity's WebRTC package will be used for authentication by connecting to a companion website. This is meant to simplify the onboarding process by catering to any and all users familiar with MetaMask. 5. Future plans and outlook. If the MVP is well received by the DAO, a signal proposal might be submitted in order to fund the next steps, which would include A. Expand and beautify the game, B. Create different versions of it, for example a regular PC version or even a safe for Steam version that is stripped of all the Web3 stuff but still has the Gotchi IP in it. And C. Create a comprehensive library of educational content using the game as an open source repository to show how to implement various ideas that often come up when developing a standalone Web3 game. With version 1.0 of ECS and netcodes for entities newly released, there's not much up-to-date content out there on these new technologies. In fact, there's basically 2 people making videos and they just review the docs like one-to-one. This gives us a great chance to fill that gap with content that promotes the Aavegotchi protocol. Okay, thank you. That was my proposal. Sorry that it took so long.
That's really impressive, mate. That's really awesome. I like how you go to so much effort to tell a story, and in the end you say it's a table tennis game. I didn't see that coming, but it was really, really well done. This is going to be awesome. Gotchis in VR playing table tennis. That sounds awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, any other thoughts, critique? I saw some people in the document, but I couldn't check while reading whether someone inserted some comments or not, but doesn't look like it.
No need to comment for me. I think that was more than fine. And I get it that for a game, if you want to have a story, it makes a way longer presentation than for a DApp. So yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's nice to have the story linked to the game itself.
Thank you.
Give something more, I would say.
And also thanks to Musashi. He says the lore supporting it is awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. Jared, educational stuff is very important too. These are exactly the tutorials we need. You are using modern game dev practices with the popular game engine Unity. Yes. Alright, so let's move on to the, if there's nothing else, let's move on to the next project that was submitted, which is Gotchi Duels by Lavelle. Is he here? Doesn't look like it. Does one of you guys want to read it? I'm a little bit parched right now. Let me put a link to it in the chat.
Yeah, I can read through it. Not a problem. So we've got this is Gotchi Jewels by Lavel, I believe it is. Yep. So I wanted to make an Aavegotchi battler duel style, I guess, game, acting as an Alchemica sync. Players would wager Alchemica for the duel, the 3.5% burn and a 1.5% dev fee. I made a Python prototype with code random number generation, but the idea is to make it so that the RNG is done with Chainlink VRF and smart contracts. I tried to chat with GPT to make some prototype smart contracts, but since I have no Solidity experience, I didn't pursue it further. So project needs Solidity development and front-end development. And he's got some a main.py Python script. All about the Python prototype is in this file, along with a visual representation in the Streamlit app, and it points to a URL at gotchijewels.com. Sorry, gotchijewels.streamlit.app. So that's Streamlit is I think it's a UI package for Python. And then there's another file he talks about, dual-latest.sol, a smart contract file. This would be the most updated attempt I've made with ChatGPT to prototype out some contracts with the aid of GPT power. And he owns the domain gotchijewels.com. And there's also a link to to a GitHub repo at the start of the document, Aavegotchi Floorbot, which talks more about the project, and it also has in there a couple of smart contract files in there I can see, and main.py Python script in there too. Yeah, so that looks to be a pretty interesting game.
Thank you for reading the project description of Laval. Yeah, any thoughts on that? Have you guys tried the prototype?
I'm just pulling it up now. It looks like you can pick a gotchi, and I think it's pulling its traits out at the moment.
I tested it also.
Comparing two gotchis, yeah.
Yeah, I also tested it. I thought it was nice. Seemed to be like a 1v1 version of what Mark is making with his Gotchi battler, as I understood it. Yeah, I think if he polishes that, maybe adds a little bit animations to it, and instead of presenting it all at once, that there's a little bit time delay between the different hits, then yeah, it could be pretty cool, I think.
So we have two battlers project actually developing, or project, I would say.
Yeah, that's right. Immaterial's also working on his as well.
Okay, I wasn't aware. I thought we had only one and it was all the same. Thanks for the clarification.
So it sounds like Lavel might be looking for team members, maybe to help him as well, because he mentions that he needs Solidity development and front end development. So maybe he's asking for that support from the community. Maybe, I'm not sure. It wasn't too clear to me, but because if he's going to do front end development, maybe it makes sense to put this into a game engine like Unity or Phaser, where you can sort of have the sort of the animations and the battling done in like a game sort of a format. That's one bit of feedback maybe you might take on.
All right. Any other feedback? Let's check chat. So it looks like Hardcore has some nice ideas here that Level can pick up on. Yeah, if there is nothing else, then should we move on to the third project that was submitted, which is by Oliver, Jared, and Slick?
Yep, sounds good. I'm happy to go through that now.
Awesome.
Let me just pull up that link. Cool. So for this project description, it's something that myself, Slick, and Oliver Spoon have been working on. We've sort of been messing around with some prototyping over the last couple of weeks, and we've been able to reuse some code and some experience that Slick has with using Phaser, the game engine Phaser, for the purposes of this MVP. So what we're working on is a multiplayer 2D dungeon crawler / roguelike called Crawlathon. That's just a working title at the moment. We might change it. We're not sure at this stage. So we'll be working on just an MVP for this iteration, and it will be a multiplayer game. You'll be able to create your own room or join an existing multiplayer room, and you can use an owned or a rented Aavegotchi as your in-game avatar. And we're thinking of capping it to maybe 3 or 4 players per team. So this will be a cooperative. At this stage, we're leaning towards having it as a cooperative team play experience, where you're working with your team to go around and walk around the level, each level together, and smash rocks. And once you smash a rock, you can collect the contents that are in those rocks, and those serve as like your points you get individually and as a team. And there's also some real-time combat with enemies in the level, and also we're looking at having some multiplayer puzzles that you can do in the world as well, where you work together to interact with switches, open up rooms, find secrets together. And basically, as you crush the rocks on each level, you can eventually open up a portal to go through to the lower level of the mine. And the idea is to go deeper and deeper down into the mine and rack up more points. We're still working through the average game length in terms of time, what that would be, because you'll have a countdown timer that would sort of restrict you as the game progresses. And for the MVP, we're going to have 3 levels, and each level will have its own focus. One level will be focused on combat, another level will be focused on puzzles, and another level will be focused on exploration. And these levels will also be able to have parts of them that can be randomized, like placement of objects in the level can be randomized. So we'll just be basically cycling through random variants of those levels, so we can sort of have a decent experience for players to play until we create more levels in the future once we're done with the MVP. Oliver's doing some fantastic artwork that we're going to include in the game, and some fantastic story and lore stuff he's been working on. It's all really cool. So I'm sure the community's going to really love that when it comes out. And also we're going to put some sound effects and music into the game as well. So we're working on that. The tech stack is, like I said, the game engine is Phaser. We're using TypeScript for the programming. The multiplayer library, SDK, we're using Calicius, which is a open source a multiplayer library that we'll be making use of. We're using the subgraph for loading the Aavegotchis and their SVGs into the world. And we're using the entity component system, sort of like what CryptoGotchi mentioned before. It's sort of one of the modern day game development practices. We're using the Bit ECS library to integrate into our game, and another library for detecting collisions, where you can make use of that as well. Now, we have some more plans after the MVP. Basically, we want to be able to use Essence, the Aavegotchi asset Essence in the game, to basically extend the play time of the game by burning Essence. So we're still working out the mechanics for that, but that will come sort of afterwards because we'll need to do a bit of smart contract work on that for that to all work. And we plan on continuing to introduce more levels, more biome types in the levels, building upon the combat, puzzle, and exploration mechanics based on what the feedback we get from the community, what things people like. We'll focus our efforts on that. Having a progression system, more randomization of the levels so we can have more and more levels. Like we sort of want to eventually get to the stage where we have like 100 plus levels in the game. I think that's the main points for our game. So happy to get any feedback from anyone on the call.
Sounds very awesome.
Sounds really good.
Thanks, guys.
So, about feedback, I was a bit surprised to read and also hear that you guys are planning to have the player spend Essence. So I figure there must be something really awesome that they get in return, like the stuff that they pick up in the game. Are those NFTs as well? And how do you plan on incentivizing people to spend something as valuable as Essence, which you can only get, well, you could buy it, but otherwise you can only get it from sacrificing a Gotchi, which is like sacred.
Yeah, so we're still working through that. That won't be in the MVP, but we've got to do a bit of work to sort of figure out how we drop real assets into the game for people to pick up. We have some thoughts like when you crush the rocks, it has a certain percentage chance that it will drop real game assets, the real Aavegotchi assets into the world. But this will be post the MVP. You're right. Convincing people to burn their Essence will be pretty hard because it is quite valuable. So we want to make sure that the puzzles we build into the game and the variety of the levels and biomes, we want to make that really top notch. So we encourage people to explore the world and everything that's been created. And you'll have a timer, so if you want to explore more, you've got to basically pay more to get down lower into the world. A lot of that stuff post MVP is still up for debate. So if you guys have feedback on that, reach out to myself and Oliver and Slick, and we'll take that on board and see how we can incorporate that into the game.
Awesome, will do. And can't wait to get to test this out.
Just responding to a few chat messages. So Masashi, this will be a sort of real time gameplay, so it won't really be a mud, but that's and Scroogey, you've put some thoughts here. Instead of making it time based, possibly make it life based. Limited life could promote skill gameplay. Yeah, that's a good thought there, mate. We'll have a think about that and see how we can see how we want it, because we want to sort of play test it, right? If people feel too restricted about having it time based, then we need to sort of change that up and so people have the most fun playing it. Yeah, and hardcore, I think you got a few points here as well. So, the other thing I think we should start doing is having all of the mini games use Fireball as their explorer. Yeah, that's not a bad point, right? Because, or maybe even the upcoming release of the dressing room, like anything we do in terms of Aavegotchi traits and how that impacts gameplay, we want to make sure that that's visible in our community tools, so people know, why I should get this type of gotchi, rent this type of gotchi, because it'll have these benefits in, I guess, this minigame and all the other minigames that people create. So I totally agree with that as well, mate. Okay, I didn't know mud could be real time, mate. Yeah, you might be right about that. Cool, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right. Anyone else got any feedback for Jared, or should we move on to the next part of the agenda? Okay, moving on. The next part is to continue our discussion about rewards. So to recap last time, basically we came up in the end with a multi-tier system, I think. It's a little bit complicated because we went back and forth. I think the last suggestions that were that had the most support was from Oliver. He mentioned that we should all act as gatekeepers to prevent spam or very low effort submissions. And I think part of this already starts with the project descriptions, but then in turn have a higher reward as the minimum rewards tier. Because we thought about having multiple reward tiers, basically a minimum that everyone who hands in a working MVP will get, and then we would have a slightly higher reward tier for stuff that is received exceptionally well or was very complex to make, or like whatever we as a group think should get more. Then after our discussion, the tab also had a discussion about rewards, and they suggested something a little bit different. Light Piglet was kind enough to share a screenshot with me about their discussion that I'm gonna upload in chat, so then we can discuss that and share our thoughts, what we think would be best. So what they're suggesting is basically to make this second tier depending on proposals. So if you manage to successfully pass the SIG prop, you would get a little bit more, and if you successfully pass the core prop, you would get even more. And they think or suggested that the minimum rate for submitting an MVP should be around 200 Ghost. Any thoughts on that from the audience?
Yeah, I think it's okay if we are only targeting projects that need the SIG prop and the core prop and additional funding, because that's the point I don't get. If I ask for a SIG prop and a core prop, if the SIG prop passes, it means I am working on a large project that will, and I will need some additional fundings for the DAO in order to deliver the full project, I would say. But for example, in our case, PG and I, to fully finish the DApp, I haven't talked to PG, so maybe he thinks otherwise. But I don't see us asking for money to the DAO in any way. But on the other side, 200 GHST in our case, because we don't want to go to SIGPROP and CoreProp, and we want to deliver full product without going that way, seems a little low, if I may say. But if we go for this structure, in that case, I guess we will deliver an MVP this month, and depending on how people like it, we decide what we do next with it. But we were not intending to go for SIGPROP and CoreProp as being the only way to move forward in the reward system.
Thank you for this feedback. I also, I think there are several issues with this. So first of all, I don't really understand why we would want to incentivize SIGPROPs and CoreProps, especially all at the same time. Because if we were to submit, let's say 10 submissions decide, hey, we want to go for the extra rewards, we're going to put up signal proposals. So then you have at the same time 10 signal proposals asking for money. So it's much less likely that the DAO will actually say yes to that. And also the rewards are meant to reward what you did, and rewarding someone for passing a signal proposal, I don't know, it seems odd. And the third thing is, if you make a signal proposal for a higher funding, then you are not the person who needs that extra 500 Ghost on top. So yeah, I was actually quite surprised to see this, or that was their main suggestion. Also because it deviates quite a lot from what we discussed last time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for your project, our project, you are looking to make video games. It's not the same scale in terms of size, time needed to produce a project compared to smaller one, to dApps or things like that, in most cases. And so I guess for you the hackathon is just the first step, and if you deliver a nice MVP, you can go decide by yourself to go to the DAO and ask for a funding that's the right size. But I don't think we should include I think DAO funding is the next step. It is after the hackathon, for every project, for everyone to see what they want to do. So yeah, I'm not a big fan. So.
Yeah, it seems completely independent from the hackathon, because that's up to each and everyone's own decision if they want to submit a SIGPROP or CoreProp or whatnot. What we could also, or what would also be a good thing to mention now is that the amount of rewards. So in total, there are 15,000 Ghost per month. We are now 2 weeks into the first month, and so far, not even 500 Ghost have been earned by participants. So this obviously does not include all the Voltron stuff, but what that means is that until the end of the month, they will probably not spend more than 3 or at most 4,000 ghost, which means there are still 11,000 ghost left. So I'm with Jared on this one. He suggested a second ago to maybe increase the minimum rewards a bit, and that is my thought also. If we say, for example, that we increase the minimum reward to 300, 400, 500, something between 300 and 500, I think would make sense, depending on the number of submissions that we get. And we should also take into account that not all submissions will actually lead to submissions of a working MVP, and some will not submit at all, and some will submit something that is not working. That was, for example, my experience during the last hackathon, which was 1 or 2 years ago. I was trying to get a multiplayer working. I tried to do it with Morales and Phaser, and then I tried to do it with Morales and Unity, and I had both of these projects on GitHub, but in the end, I pulled my hair out. I couldn't get it to work, but I still actually got the XP reward back then because I submitted something. And I think something like that, like a consolidation prize, would also make sense. Like if you upload a GitHub proving, hey, you did something that took you more than 10 minutes, then a consolidation prize of, let's say, 100 ghost or something, I think would go a long way, so that these people who participated in the hackathon and spent their time on it don't feel like it was a complete waste just because they didn't manage to finish in time.
I agree with that.
Okay, just catching up on the chat here.
I really like Hardcore's idea where he talks about getting a panel together where they could vote on each submission. They have a set amount of votes, maybe 10 votes each panel member. And that's how we could maybe direct the rewards.
Well, we need the panel to decide anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe there could be a minimum amount as well, along with the panel. I don't know. I'm not sure, but yeah, maybe we could put a call out there. Would people like to be on this panel?
I think Chair suggested something similar last time.
Yeah.
Just as a basic requirement for the minimum reward, that we all as a panel would make sure that the MVP needs to reach at least a certain threshold. And I think extending this idea, like Hardcore mentioned, that each vote will carry a certain weight in terms of rewards, and then distribute rewards based on those votes, makes sense. I think we shouldn't gatekeep this panel too much. So personally, I think it would make sense if all of us, or like all of the people who submitted, are on this panel, including whoever who didn't submit, just wants to be part of it.
Yeah, that's fair. To avoid like conflicts of interest. And I'm wondering, should we put any sort of non members of the Voltron community maybe any other community members should be on this panel as well, or is that is that a good idea?
Well, I think it's a great idea, especially thinking about like Coder Dan or Jesse.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be good to have a Pixelcraft rep on there. That'd be really good.
So, just guessing, how many submissions do you guys think we'll get after the deadline? Or not after, but by the time, how many will we have received?
Maybe should we just do a poll? Should we just do a poll in the hackathon thread there? Just ask who's planning to submit a MVP still. I'm sure there's more coming. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another 5 at least.
Yeah, right. But I would be surprised if in the end we end up with more than 20. I think that will probably be the most we will get.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much spot on, mate.
And then, given that we have about maybe 11,000 to work with, because nothing else was spent this month, that's quite a lot of money to distribute between 20 MVP submissions, or saying 20 submissions of project descriptions, out of which probably 15 will end up becoming working MVPs. But yeah, there's no point in speculating about this right now. I think we should table this discussion once more until all the project descriptions are in. But if anyone has some ideas in the meantime, please post them in the Voltron Hackathon thread so that we don't forget about them. Oh, but one more thing, which was brought up earlier about team submissions. So, I think it would be a little bit OP if every team member would receive the reward. But it also feels like if only the team gets the reward, then a team of 3 people or 5 people would be at quite the quote-unquote disadvantage. So how do you guys feel we should handle teams versus single submissions?
I think we're trying to encourage people to form teams, because if you've got a team behind you, I think your project is more likely to succeed. I think just make it clear up front. Is rewards will be split across your team. I'm just thinking, if it was to be 200 ghosts for an MVP split between 3 people, I think anyone doing that work is only doing the work because they're passionate about Aavegotchi, not because they're getting a reward to do it. So yeah, it would need to be a bit higher than 200 ghosts for getting an MVP together. So I lean towards maybe it being a 500, 600 ghosts split amongst the team.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
That's just my thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, I also agreed that reward should be per project, so per team, not per individuals. If you assemble a large team, it's because you want to produce a big project, so it's more likely for it to go to SIGPROP and CoreProp funding later on. So yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think.
I did have one question as well. Is it possible to set aside the rewards that I think it was mentioned that per month we have 15,000 ghost, is it, to distribute?
Yes.
And it's across all the different rewards that ThriveCoin offers.
Yes.
Through the program. So if we don't spend all of that, can that be put into a wallet to send out potentially in the future to developers, or is it more that it gets sort of returned to the DAO?
Maybe Light Piglet could shed some light on it. I was hoping that we could just bring it into the next month, because I suspect that next month we will get a lot more submissions than this month. And yeah, right, Light Piglet, he mentioned also that the rewards are not for the MVP so much as to thank you for making an MVP. And yeah, we are aware of that. That's properly funding the MVP would be outside the funds we have available. All right, looks like he brought this up last meeting, but they still have to figure this out. Okay, anything else regarding funding that we should talk about right now as opposed to next meeting? Or should we move on to the next top in our agenda? Which would be help and feedback. So is anyone here needing help or wanting some feedback on something? Then now's your chance to speak up. Doesn't look like it, but let's wait a moment for chat to catch up. Kula Long is asking, new here, by the way, how can I contribute here? Maybe someone could share a link to the Thank Aavegotchi Thrive page. There are quite a lot of ways that you can contribute to earn rewards, not just in terms of the hackathon, but in general. Thank you, Jared. Okay, and the second to last top on our agenda was if someone wants to shout out whether they are either looking for a team or whether they are a team looking for some individual to still fill a spot, feel free to use this as a forum to ask in the audience whether someone wants to join you or whether you could join someone else.
I think I just sent a message in the forum to Lavelle, just seeing if he wanted some developers from the community to help him. So maybe he might respond there. So if anyone's looking, if they can contribute, that might be an opportunity to get involved if you have front end development skills or Solidity skills. might be worth reaching out to Level, see if he needs help.
All right. Okay, and the last top would be miscellaneous. Anything else that you guys want to bring up? If not, then yeah, I think we're all good here. Thank you so much for joining and participating in this meeting, and hopefully see you all next week.
Thanks for hosting, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for hosting.
Aavegotchi.